Hey y'all, it's another week. Welcome to Enjoy the Chaos.
Yay, super excited about this episode.
Yes.
Sarah.
So I just got back from a big trip
Yes.
from Napa. So today, obviously we're going to be having some Napa wine.
Of course.
I did order some wine, but it hasn't gotten here in time. So we'll have to do a redo of the actual vineyard wine. But this is a rosé and it's from the Valley. And we'll talk a little bit about, now that I know how to say that.
That's right. You are an official
right.
wine connoisseur.
That's right.
I love it. I'm so excited.
So we're going to try this rosé. I love that little sound.
Yes.
And it even has a screw off top, which we have learned doesn't mean anything. Because, some people will say, if you don't have to cork it, then it obviously is not going to be. Let me pour B a little bit to try.
Absolutely. B always gets to taste.
There we go. And then we got
it.
April.
Yes, please.
And I recently
fancy glasses.
found these glasses
So
at Place on
pretty.
the Point in Albany, Georgia. It's a little boutique that you can go and get gifts and
So
homeware
good.
and the cutest jewelry. Oh, you're doing what? You're sniffing it.
I-
Yeah. So there you go. She didn't even know.
I'm going to be really good at this. I feel certain. It smells great.
So Napa for me was a bucket list trip.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I didn't really know that I had a bucket list trip until this trip. Because my husband and I are creatures of habit, and we only ever go to the beach. My poor child is not going to know that there's anywhere to vacation other than 30A.
Yeah.
We are 30A people. Rosemary,
people.
Santa Rosa,
Yes.
Seacrest, Watercolor, any of those, Destin, Sandestin, we are beach people. That's our
I
place.
love it. Yeah.
And when we talk about planning trips, we're like, okay, well, let's go here, or let's maybe go here. But then it always circles back to, okay, let's just go to the beach. And you are a Disney person.
I am a Disney person. So
It
we
just
love the beach too, but
fascinates me.
Disney for us and my family is the jam. So I think our favorite's probably Epcot, and probably not for the girls. So for the girls, it's probably Magic Kingdom because all of the rides. But for adults,
Right.
it's more so of Epcot because literally jar, right?
That's right.
We get to go to different countries in Epcot and like taste different drinks
Okay.
and walk around. So I love that about Disney. There's something magical, truly, we feel like at Disney. But I'm so excited to hear about this Napa trip because I do love wine
Right.
and probably don't know all the things about wine. And I think you probably learned that while you were there.
I did learn a lot, and I'll just go ahead and put out a disclaimer that while I was taking my notes, I was also tasting. So there may be some things that are not actually factual that I brought back as wine facts. So
Depends on what part of the day.
and
but
this
it
will
was.
show you how much I did not know about wine that I thought I did.
Right.
And that I thought
Yes.
how you process the grape is what made the wine.
Yeah.
Is what made a Cab, is what made a Merlot, is what made a Pinot Noir.
Yeah.
That it was all in the process. When truly, they're all different kinds of grapes. And you already knew
That's
that.
right. I did know there was different
So,
grapes. Yeah. Yes.
So we did 4 total vineyards while we were there.
Which is so cool.
Our first one, when we arrived on Thursday, we grabbed our suitcases from the airport, ran to the rental car, and sped to the first winery because we were on that tight of a schedule when we landed. And it was a champagne vineyard. And it was called Domaine Carneros.
Love that.
And it was exactly what you think it's going to be when you're in Napa. I mean, huge, like Spanish style mansion with all the steps leading up to it and the greenery. And you walk in and everything is marble and gold. And we were like, oh my God, we're home. Like, this is the basic.
Beach what? Beach what? No,
Yeah.
Napa. We are Napa
This
people.
is the basic white girl Mecca right here.
That's right.
It was so bougie and over the top and exactly how we needed to cook off our trip. So we had
Yes.
4 different types of champagne to try and 4 little bites of food. We did a tasting that was called Bites and Bubbles there.
That's right.
And it was very reasonable for the fact that you got a little snack and you had the 4 different types of champagne. And if you got to the bottom of your glass, somebody was, oh, you like that? Let me pour a little bit more. We also had 3 40th birthdays in our group, and everywhere we went knew that. And so they catered to us probably maybe above what they would have because they knew we were celebrating some big milestone.
Did you book that prior to, and that's how they knew? So, like, how did they know? Like, did you book it based on
Yes.
Like-
so the Champagne Vineyard we did book ourselves.
Okay. Right.
We, talked to the hotel, got some
Right.
recommendations on some good places to go, told them specifically that we wanted a Champagne to start.
Awesome.
And so they recommended that one. It was very close to the hotel, like I said, and it was very fancy. So that was the first thing that we learned about wine there, is that there are actually different types of Champagne grapes. And I also didn't know that the color of the wine, and whether it's a white or a red, is based on how long they get to sit on the skin. Because the lady at the Champagne place told us, when you bite into a grape, the inside of every grape is white.
Right.
So your juice is white.
Yes.
Which
Right.
then you think, okay. So it's how long they get to sit on the skin that determines the color. So your cabs that are very deep red obviously spend a lot more time on the skin than a white wine, a rosé, a Pinot Grigio or a Champagne or things like that.
Yes.
And the next thing they kind of talked to us about was the difference in the wines that come from the mountain and the wines that come from the valley. And this is the part that I'm probably really going to screw up. But on Friday, we used a booking service called Platypus Tours, which I would 10 out of 10 recommend.
Oh, cool.
They came and picked us up at our hotel. The transportation was this super nice big van. We had plenty of room. We had 7 people total, and we're all in heels and dresses and hats and bags and all the things. And they had
super cute.
Yes, plenty of space for us to get in there.
That's awesome.
And get out. And they had bottled water for in between and the rides, which was really nice. And so the first place we went to on Friday was a vineyard called Azure. And when I tell you we got to the gate and we thought, this has taken a turn and we're all going to end up on Dateline. Because it was polar opposite from the first one on Thursday. We just assumed that this is what everywhere was going to look like. Everywhere was going to be this grand mansion, and you could just see the vineyards for miles. And so that's kind of what we were thinking everything would be. So when we pulled up to this house, like a legit house, and the driver punched the gate code in and went, okay, they have some sort of human trafficking scheme, and this is how they get their people. But we drive around to the back of the property to this old barn, and a guy comes out with a tray of champagne, and apparently it's like candy to kids, because we're like, okay, well, we'll just risk the kidnapping for their champagne.
We'll take that. Yes, thank you.
Their champagne. We'll risk it.
That's good. We'll stay.
So it was 6 girls and my husband. So he was the 7th. And so we thought, okay, well, if something really good, we got to do something really good. Right. He'll take care of us.
That's right.
But it was amazing. And it actually ended up being our favorite spot of the day.
That's so cool.
It's owned by a lady. Her name is Ilan, and she spent a lot of time in France and fell in love with rosé. And that's what she decided to come back. And that's kind of their staple bread and butter they have there. Right. They make the cabs and things like that, but the rosé is really kind of their main concentration. And so Jorge was our tasting guide for the day.
When you say Jorge. I love that. I love it.
And he was amazing. And he answered all of our dumb questions that we had, and really talked to us about the difference in the valley and the mountain.
Right.
Because you actually, I see, and now that I have gone to buy wine since being back in town, I have noticed that's on the bottle. Like, this talks about the valley on the label. And this is just a bottle that I found at Bottoms Up here, and it's called Rayburn, and it's a rosé, and it's actually really good. And it's from Sonoma County, California.
Yeah.
So it's a really good one. But he talked to us about the color of the rosé.
Yes.
The color of the rosé, the lighter it is, the truer the rosé. And I may be mixing this up, but the darker it is, typically it's a discard from another wine.
Yeah.
They're trying to make a Merlot or a Cab, and so they're filtering it off to add more of that grape.
Right.
And then you get the rosé.
See?
Because it's and I don't want to say discard, so maybe a filter.
Yeah.
A filter.
Yeah, that's right.
So the lighter the rosé, it was truly being processed to be a rosé.
And to me, the color, I was expecting it to be a little bit more pink, right? A rosé, like a true, but technically, this is a better rosé. The lighter it is.
It's lighter.
Right? It's lighter.
It's much lighter.
Yes.
And you get that on the valley.
Right.
Because the valley receives more moisture, rain, and things like that. So the grapes are larger, have more juice, and things like that.
Your
More robust wines, like your cabs, come
Right.
from the mountain. And because it's the mountain and the weather is not as great, the vines themselves, I guess, survival of the fittest, even plants do that.
Right.
They concentrate most of their growing energy into smaller vines.
Right.
And so the fruit that you get there are more concentrated with greater intensity and higher tannins, which we learned all about the tannins.
The tannins. So the tannins, we've talked about the tannins prior to your trip.
We did. We talked about tannins prior to, and that was one of the things I asked Jorge.
Mm-hmm.
What are tannins? You see these wines that are advertised as being low tannin, tannin free, and that supposedly it's the tannins that give you the hangover.
Right.
And so according to Jorge, the more tannins in the wine, the drier they are. And you get the tannins from the time they have soaking on the skin and the seed, in the barrel.
Yeah.
And so that's why you drink some red wines and it gives you that, it sucks all the moisture out. And you like that because you like a cab.
I love a cab, yes.
And the cab is a very high tannin wine. Yes. I do not enjoy that.
Yeah,
that's why I like Pinot Noir.
Right.
Because Pinot Noir is a low tannin wine.
Which makes sense.
So he really said that the tannins don't have anything to do with hangover, not hangover. And, he was very upfront with us. And he was like, if you drink a really expensive bottle of wine and don't drink any water in between, you're going to have a hangover just like if you drank a cheaper bottle of wine and didn't drink any water in between. The cheaper bottle, if it has more residual sugar, is obviously going to give you a worse headache, which is not anything that I had ever really thought about from wine
at all.
So he talked to us about that. So he says you can look on the back of the bottle and see the RS content, which is the residual sugar that's in the wine. And so the more they have to filter it down, add stuff in, it's getting further away from wine and turning more into the grape juice, type, that has a little bit of alcohol content. Right. And so it's that sugar that's going to give you the hangover, not the tannins. And so you don't really necessarily have to try to find a low tannin, high tannin for that purpose, but really it's the drier the wine, the higher the tannins.
Yes. And I think that's interesting, to be honest, because, people have for so long that I know about, like, why do I get this bad headache, and whatnot. So it was interesting when you said that about.
And specifically red wine headache.
Right.
Like people will say, oh, I got a red wine headache.
Red wine headache.
Yeah, red wine headache. Well, did you drink any water in between? And I will tell you that we drank probably 2 bottles each in between trips. Yes. And really nobody ever felt bad. And it may have been adrenaline. It may have been whatever. Yes. But we really did try to make an effort. And we also weren't just chugging glass after glass of it.
Y'all were truly enjoying it.
We were.
The pictures were amazing.
And so at Azure, she has taken a barn that was original to the property and restored it, and that's where she does her tastings.
Okay.
And so everything on the inside of the barn used to be on the outside. So she's built up around it. So it's still the true original. But, it was right up our alley because it was like 2 velvet couches and the glass tablecloth and gold accents and
so pretty.
And things like that. And so we spent a lot of time there asking questions.
Yeah.
Also found a really good cab there. And I'm not typically a cab fan. But I ordered some cab to bring back for us to try.
I love that. So excited.
So we'll be having, or maybe we'll do a red wine tasting next time since we did the rosé this time.
Yes.
Another thing we asked Jorge was about the legs.
That's right.
So I don't know if you've ever noticed people when they're out at the restaurant and they're, this has great legs. Oh, it has such legs. And he laughed at us when we asked about the legs because apparently the legs
is not a thing.
Well, it said the legs have to do with alcohol content, not quality of the wine. So obviously your better quality wines are going to have the higher alcohol content because they've not been filtered down, don't have a lot of additives and things like that.
Right.
He said you could get legs with a really high quality bourbon or whiskey or any of those things. So the legs are not unique to wine. It's just the amount of alcohol that are in the legs. But we all thought we were so cute when we sat down and we're like, oh, look at the legs on this cab. And then he just started laughing. He was like, what are you doing? Apparently it's a very common... Apparently, it's very common for people to think about the legs.
Yes. Yes. Absolutely.
So that was very interesting. So we left from Azure and went to a winery called Matera. Right. And Matera is a family vineyard. It's owned by the Cunit family. the lady that gave us our tour was precious. I think Gene
Aw.
was trying his best to get her to adopt him. She was so sweet. But the funny thing about this place is when we pulled up, we're in Napa.
Right.
And it's, it's Napa. Everything there is wonderful.
Yes.
And our driver, who was amazing, and he was like Jerry Garcia reincarnated. I mean, he was an old rocker, like gray hair, earrings, covered in tattoos, just talked to us the whole time about stuff that he probably shouldn't have been talking to us about, but he was amazing. We pull up and he's like, now ladies, this is the nicest bathroom in Napa. And we were like, what?
Bathroom.
The bathroom. We're pulling up to this gorgeous vineyard, and you have a comment about the
did I hear
bathroom.
correctly? Bathroom?
The nicest bathroom in Napa.
Okay.
So,
Okay.
Okay.
Check that out.
Don't threaten me with a good time.
That's right.
I mean, so
We'll hit that bathroom up.
so we go in, and obviously we had just gotten done with a very generous tasting.
Right.
Drank 2 bottles of water on the way there, so everybody had
Yeah.
to visit the bathroom. And
Of course.
April, when I tell you, it's the nicest bathroom I've ever been in. It's the nicest bathroom I've ever been in. But I got trapped in it.
So Sarah tells me she sends us a text. We have a text with our little group here, and she's like, I got stuck in the bathroom. I'm like, oh, what? You're stuck in the bath? All the thoughts that ran through my head in that moment, I was like, I cannot wait to hear about this bathroom adventure.
You walk, you open the door, and it's not a stall; it's a room.
Right.
So each potty has its own room. You open the door to the room. A blue light in the toilet comes on. The lid comes up on its own.
This is automatic.
This is automatic. This
Like,
happens
Sarah
when
does
you
nothing.
open the door.
It's automatic.
Yes,
Let's
when you
just point
open
that
the
out.
door. And so I'm like, okay, well, this is a really
Yes,
nice
this
bathroom.
is
And
swank,
I sit
yes.
down, and the toilet seat is warmed.
Yes. I love
And
that.
to the right is a little remote control. And I'm like, oh, well,
Okay.
this is interesting. And so it turns out that these also double as bidets. I'm from Southwest Georgia. We don't have a lot of bidets in Southwest Georgia. So I'm like,
No.
okay, let's see what let's see what
Let's
this
check
is
it
about.
out.
Let's just see what this is about.
That's right.
So I hit the button on the remote.
I love it.
And apparently it's Old Faithful.
Old Faithful.
Old Faithful
Old Faithful.
geyser connects to these bodies.
I just love it. I wish some friend there had captured this moment of excitement for you.
So I'm pushing all the buttons trying to get it to either turn down or turn off. And I can't get either to happen. And in fact, as I'm trying to turn it down, I'm turning it up. And so I yell out, I'm stuck. I can't get it to turn off. And so everybody's in there and they're just howling. Well, the door is locked. And the door is a good 5 feet from the potty. So it's no just leaning up and unlocking it for somebody to come in there and help me.
I would have loved
And so
to
they're all
see
like
this.
laughing, trying to figure out what's happening. And I'm pushing the stop button on the
Yeah,
remote.
that's
Nothing is happening. And so finally there's a button on the back of the toilet that you can press like an emergency shut off.
Praise. Yes.
Now, please keep in mind the water is still. I'm in a
Old
dress
Faithful.
and my boot, and so
Literally.
I'm trying to pivot and turn without letting the water just spray across
And for
the
all
room.
everybody that has not
Yes.
listened, she has a boot.
Yes, I have a broken foot.
She has a broken
so
foot,
I'm
so
trying
this-
to do this in my boot,
that's
and
right.
I finally get it turned off. Get out into the lobby, and the few people that didn't come to the bathroom were all standing there like, what just happened? Like, country
What
has
is
come to
happening?
town. Because you could hear us all cracking up and wailing in there. But, so,
I love
FYI, if
Be
you
careful.
decide to use a bidet, just be careful because it may
Yes.
not turn off
Does
the
the
way that you
remote
expect it
work.
to be.
You know,
Yes.
like
And you
And how
couldn't
do you
test
even
it
test
before.
that?
You couldn't
You
test it
know?
before you sat down, or it just would be everywhere.
yes.
But it was an
Oh,
experience for sure.
faithful. I love it.
So we recovered from the bathroom, and we got ourselves together, and we were back to being cute and professional and polished, classy people, and not people that get stuck on the toilet in Napa, California. And this particular facility showed us how the wine was actually made.
Oh yeah.
So we got to see the machinery that they use to press the grapes. We asked about the drought because all you ever hear is California drought,
That's right.
drought. Well, grapes are dry grown, so I
Okay.
didn't realize that.
I didn't either.
So the drought climate is
Oh.
actually conducive
Okay.
and what they need. They do have
Okay.
irrigation to
Sure.
spritz them every now and then, but they're actually dry grown, so the drought doesn't affect it.
Okay.
And they have crews that come in the very early morning and handpick all the grapes. The grapes are not picked by machines.
That's even better.
Which, we're used to being here in Southwest Georgia where everything happens in a combine or a tractor or something.
That's exactly right.
But they actually have all these crews that come in and hand pick. They have like these little tiny little Grim Reaper things is what they look like.
That's so cool.
That they cut the grapes from the vine. And so we got to see the machines where all that was processed, where that whole thing transpired to the tanks. And they're these huge, and I assume it's probably something similar to like dairy farmer milk.
Sure.
Tanks, and each one of them have a different temperature on them depending on what type of wine that they're making and how it needs to be stored. And then from there, they get put into barrels, and we got to go in the barrel room, which was really cool. I mean, it's just floor to ceiling, just barrels that have been in there for who knows how long. Cliff Bars, the Cliff family has bought a vineyard.
Really?
Why would you not?
Why would you not?
Why would you not? And so Matera actually processes wine for other vineyards. They bring their grapes there. They process wine for other vineyards. So we got to see the Cliff family wine as well as some of the Matera wine. So being in the barrel room was really cool.
So is it identified on the barrel? Like, how do you know the wine? So that it's identified like family wise.
Yes, like, there's like a burn, like a
that's right.
So there's a stamp on each of the barrels, so you know where it's from, and I guess they know what type of wine it is. There wasn't anything that said we didn't need a barrel. Like, how can I get a barrel back?
We want a barrel.
How can I get a barrel here? If you're listening, Matera, we need an Enjoy the Chaos barrel. That's what I need.
Yes, put it in there. Yes, I love it.
And they take you into their private wine cellar, and the floor is glass, and under the floor is the original soil that the vineyard was originally planted on. So that was super cool to be able to see that. It just was a neat experience. And they did some really cute touches for us. They had like a little sign that said happy birthday and all that.
I saw that. That was so cool.
And surprisingly enough, there we found a Sauvignon Blanc that we really liked.
Okay.
And I'm not typically a white wine fan.
Right, that's right.
And neither is my husband, but he just lived his best life and drank.
I love that.
He went and bought a bottle of Sauvignon for us to have with our little picnic lunch.
Yes.
So the white wine was very good. But, she talked about how you have to look at that sugar content.
Right.
That, again, it's all based off of your palate. There are no wrong answers. You like what you like.
That's
I mean, if you like barefoot or you like something that's $125, it's not wrong. It's what you like. Right. So what's your next bucket list trip, April?
So actually, funny story. Chad and I was just talking about a trip last night. It was something he saw on I think it was TikTok. But anyway, Italy. Oh. And so Italy to me would be definitely a bucket list trip.
Yeah. What's your next milestone anniversary? Like, when can we work this into your life?
So we would be married 20 years next year.
Okay.
And so that's not far away, but Italy's one of those huge trips. Like, I would need all the advice, all the things, time to save and all that. So maybe year 25 for us.
Oh, that would be good. That's a big milestone too.
Yeah, for sure. So I think that will be fun. I've always the scenery's great. I've always wanted to do Italy, like the food, because I'm a foodie.
Oh yeah, same.
So
same girl, same.
So I am. That would definitely be it for me.
Okay.
To Italy. What about you?
My next one is Turks and Caicos.
Yeah.
But mainly because that's where Chrissy Teigen vacations with her. So, and I feel like if we were to ever meet, we would instantly become best friends.
100%.
Plus, I'm a beach person.
So
I'm going to get back to the beach.
I love it.
I think Jean's would be somewhere like Utah or Montana.
Yes.
I have zero interest in that.
Yes.
So I think we'll go to maybe more. We'll go to tropical.
Yeah.
So what do you think about the rosé?
So I absolutely love this rosé.
Okay.
I would absolutely, on a scale of 1 from 5, I think I would give it a 4.
Okay.
I love it.
All right. I bet you're going to give the cab a 5.
That's because I love a cab.
I bet you're going to give the cab a 5.
I love a cab. But I do love this too. This is a great flavor.
Good. Okay.
I think it's yummy.
We will see you next week. Meanwhile, enjoy the chaos.
Enjoy the chaos. Don't forget to like and share us on Facebook at Enjoy the Chaos with April and Sarah.
Bye.
Bye, y'all.